Welcome to 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. Of course, you can also listen on the PGA Tour Radio Network on SiriusXM. I am Gary Williams. Great to have you with us. This program is brought to you by Century Insurance. They're always right by you, and they do the right things when it comes to the game of golf. Their relationship with the United States Golf Association, the First Tee, and of course sponsoring the first event on the PGA Tour's calendar schedule, Golf Pride. When it comes to grips, whatever your level of play, everybody globally trusts Golf Pride more than any other grip. And of course, Peter Millar, when it comes to refining luxury and style, they've been doing it for more than 2 decades. Proudly, I've been wearing their clothing for 15 years. And then Pinehurst Resort, they are an anchor site for the U.S. Open, for USGA championships, and they continue to get better every single day. Cottages at number 8 are available to you to start renting to be occupied in the month of May. All right, it's our final day of the week, and we sit on the eve of a Signature Series event on the PGA Tour, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But also this week on PGA Tour Champions, they're at the Cologuard Classic in Tucson, Arizona. And Cologuard, if you think about sponsorships, when you're talking about like real life stuff, somebody who has represented that company as a partner, one of the better players on PGA Tour Champions, Jerry Kelly is going to be joining me here in just a little bit. Get his thoughts on not only state of his game, state of that tour, and some other items I'm sure that we will get into with him. In college golf, it is now the month of March as we build toward not only conference play and then regionals and the NCAA championships. Our person who played college golf at the highest level at the University of Minnesota, Emma Carpenter, is going to be joining me. We'll get her assessment of the best teams on the men's side, on the women's side. We'll talk about some individuals as well. I'm looking forward to having her join me here on this Wednesday. But I mentioned we're sitting on the eve of another week of professional golf, and in particular a Signature Series event. And the signature of Arnold Palmer is one of the great signatures in all of sports history. And he took it very personally to make sure that when he did his signature, his name, whether it was on a glove or on a piece of paper, on a visor, on someone's shoulder, that it was legible. And you know what? It was also redeemable because he made it so personal. You know, the interesting thing about time and timing is that it's just that. Sometimes it's just dumb luck. The Masters was put on television for the first time in 1956, the last 4 holes. 2 years later, Arnold Palmer won the tournament for the first time. And then 2 years after that, he won it again. And 2 years after that, he won it again. And for the final time in 1964. Somebody had to be the first television star in golf. And if there was anybody who could walk through a casting call, and if you had a director and a bunch of producers that said, okay, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who in a sport that maybe athleticism is not necessarily associated with it, we'd like this guy to be athletic. Obviously, we want him to be telegenic. We want him to emote confidence. We want him to be exceedingly likable. And also, you got to believe that he has more confidence than anybody else that you're going to see on this vast landscape that is golf on television. You know what he was? He was an amalgamation of Steve McQueen and Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, and then later on in life, Jimmy Stewart. You could not draw up somebody to walk onto a TV screen to play a game that takes a lot of time. Think about the way that we complain about sports today. When we have a booth review in the NFL and now in basketball, and you're going, can you hurry up? Let's get on with it. Golf meanders, it plods along, methodical as being kind. It takes 4 days to resolve a competition at the highest level. But when he was on the screen, you're going, hold on, look at that guy. Look at that guy hitching up his pants and chain smoking at a time when that seemed cool, and obviously it isn't now. There wasn't anything he did that wasn't cool. Here's the other thing about Arnold Palmer when it comes to timing. Not only did he burst onto the screen, winning the Masters for the first time in 1958, 2 years after television at the highest level in golf came together to kind of become engaged. And then they said, let's get married because he's the right groom for all of this stuff. In 1995, he was the guy who pushed the idea of golf 24 hours a day, before football, basketball, baseball, hockey, any of them. Like the temerity and the chutzpah to say that golf is going to be 24/7. And there were other men, Joe Gibbs and Tim Neer, were critical figures to make Golf Channel happen. That was 1995. And 2 years later, who won the Masters for the first time? Tiger Woods. The other guy, the most telegenic guy who emoted more confidence than anybody. And those two men, when you consider their importance historically in the game, no, Arnold Palmer was not Tiger in terms of his greatness. But I would contest to my dying day there was nobody more important. And here's where it gets personal for me, because this is the rub for all of this as it pertains to this week and really any day in the game of golf, whether it be professional golf or the millions of people who play golf recreationally. When I got to Golf Channel, it wasn't long after I got there that I was asked to do an event with him at Bay Hill Club and Lodge. And when we got there, I sat at the dinner table with him and his wife, Kit, Dow Finsterwald, his dear friend, and his wife. And when we were getting ready to go up onto this little stage, and it was a USGA event, he looked at me and he said, "How you doing? Are you okay?" Thinking, look, I might be a little unnerved. I'm walking onto a stage with the king. And I said, "No, I think I'm okay." And he looked back at me with that wry smile and he said, "Just remember, they're not here to listen to you." And he was doing that to make me feel comfortable, to give me a level of warmth that I didn't necessarily need, but my God, did it feel good. And then it began a relationship at a time when my father was terminally ill. Mr. Palmer was aware of that, and he did something for me that he did for a lot of people who were not in the same circumstance. He wrapped his arm around me, and for the last 5 years of his life, I spent time with him, and what I saw was not only a warmth that was expressed and directed toward myself, but everybody else in his wake, and he was just that. He created a current that when you were around him, you felt like, oh my God, he's the biggest star in the room. He's one of the most important figures, not only in sports history, but really in cultural history, because my God, he's Arnold Palmer. So whether you were 8 or 80, you felt like you could walk up to him and shake his hand. So these interludes, these moments, these times that I had with him, including in his office with my hand on his dog Mulligan, and on a day where we'll do Dogs of the Week, that's one of the great dogs, that was the last time I was with him. That was at Latrobe Country Club, my dear friend and colleague Damon Hack, sitting there in the grill room at Latrobe, and Mr. Palmer said to Damon when the waiter walked over to the table and he said, "Damon, you know what to order, right?" And Arnold Palmer, he was golf's best friend. And so at a time when the game is at the highest level, appearing to be fractured and frayed and trying to find its way, my God, could we use his hand and his voice to tell these players that, remember something, you're only here for a moment in time. And that the most important thing is, as much as this game gives to you, and my God, it gave him a lot, you know what he did? He figured out a way to give more back to the game than the game gave to him. And that seems unimaginable, but it's true. Because in that photograph of me sitting in his office with him, you have to understand something. At the time, he was a man in his mid-80s, and he had correspondence on his desk this high. And it wasn't from people of his age. It was from people of all ages, from all over the world, wanting his signature. To his dying day, he was one of, if not the biggest star in golf, but he felt like the luckiest man in every room that he walked into. So here we sit at a time where we're trying to figure out who's playing where and how much they're playing for. And I'll never forget hearing his words, not directly, but in the aftermath of when he spoke in the Champions Dinner, the last Masters tournament that he attended. And he said to all those players, champions in that room, you all have a responsibility here. Give more than you get. That's something that I hope that they heed as we get ready to contest his tournament, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. We take a break right now. We come back. Jerry Kelly's going to join me as we have a conversation about a lot of stuff. It's always fun to talk with him. It's always great to have you with us on a Wednesday. It's 5 Clubs. We're back right after this. Welcome back into 5 Clubs on this Wednesday. Great to have you with us. And this segment is being brought to you by Golf Pride. Every player at every level trusts Golf Pride more than any grip in the world. Joining me now, guy who's won 12 times on PGA Tour Champions, 3 times on the PGA Tour. Been a stalwart at 58 years of age. He looks like $1 million. I'm speaking, of course, of Jerry Kelly. Hello, my friend. How are you?
How are you, Gary? Good to be here. $1 million.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, come on. I mean, you've made 20 times that. I mean, you can at least look like one, which you do. It's great to see you. We're going to talk about Cologuard because I know how much they mean to you as a partner. But I got to ask you, at 58, what do you do better than you did at 48 on the golf course?
Control my emotions, no question about that. You know what I was like back in the day. I was pretty volatile. And I really wasn't the same person off the course. And I think a lot of the players, after being with me for so many years, kind of figured that one out. But yeah, it you know, helped me, hurt me in my career. That was always the question. If I didn't have that kind of fire with my swing, who knows where I would have been. Selling insurance, I think.
Well, listen, I was lucky enough to spend some time with you doing an instructional shoot, and you shared your process. And one of the things that is clear of anybody who has done it as long as you have is that you have a competitive bent. When did you know you were competitive? Because you were a good athlete, you did other things, hockey was part of your background. How did you know you were a competitive person?
Basically caddying for my father and watching his competitive fire, yet he was extremely calm. And my mother picked up the game when I was born, basically. She was with me on the range all the time as soon as I could walk. And her competitive fire, watching that, was really incredible. So I was just kind of born out of the two of them, obviously. But it turned into a great mix of the two of them. I was more my mom on the course and my dad off the course.
Well, I mean, that to me is interesting because the combination of nature and nurture, which you were in that cyclone of it, and it produced what you are. The other thing, Jerry, that I think was really important for you as far as your career transitioning to PGA Tour Champions is that you were always so competitive that you played a full schedule all the way up until that. There are guys who, look, from 45 to 50, there's this state of purgatory. How valuable was it for you to play against the best players in the world, literally until you were 50 and beyond?
I think that was everything. And I truly tried to set myself up for that scenario. I played a lot of tournaments. I wasn't that player who could focus on the majors. I wanted to play as many tournaments as I could, garner as much career money, so I had a safety net on the Champions Tour. And I was very happy that I was successful in doing that. I lost by a shot at Hartford my last year. You know, I always tell people I was exempt my first year out here. And I really kind of committed out here more than I did on the PGA Tour, just because that first tournament in Naples that I played, I had the fire, I had the nerves. I mean, I was trying to tee it up like this, and I'm going, yeah, this is probably where I belong. That's what I live for, is that fire, and this tour gave it to me right off the bat. So I committed here.
You know, Jerry, winning the senior players gets you in the players. You've done that a couple times. You've also played in the Sony Open a handful of times after 50. So you have gone back and you've seen what it's like now. What is most different when you dip your toe in the water, when you see guys, you know, who are half your age, but what is the most different about when you were 30 compared to the guys now who are 30?
You know, it's the equipment, but it's the individual. I think the equipment gave the ability for the incredible athlete, the big, huge, wide arc, the 6'2", 6'4" guys. It gave the ability to be able to hit the ball straighter with that speed. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that they all have the speed. And that is, when you get to play against it, when you're still the old school guy, it's shocking. I mean, it's over 100 yards sometimes. It's pretty crazy. But you put the big heavy metal shafts, the woods and the Balata balls. The amount that the ball had to spin, I don't think you could really up your game quite as much as they are now. So it's a great combination. The athletes are there. There's no question. The workout trailer is full. I was actually in there. I could barely find a spot to do my stretching and working. And, they're looking at me, and I'm bringing a coffee in, and, they're, they're lifting and working hard. I'm like, you're doing pretty good.
Your tour, is it possible that a 67-year-old guy is still the best player? Is that reasonable to say that? Look, I think the top 10 on your tour, there's equity there. It seems like you guys trade punches on a weekly basis. But is the 67-year-old guy still equal to throw as many mitts as anybody else?
Unbelievably, yes. I would not call him the best player anymore at the time that we're at. There's a lot of incredibly consistent, very good ball strike, but they were products of Bernard. There's to watch that kind of consistency and what he can do week in and week out, and the effort that he puts in every week. He's the first guy there on Monday, and they're charting the golf course, and he's played these golf courses for a really long time, and they're stepping everything off every single week. The commitment that they have, whether it's OCD or not, it's still extremely impressive at his age, the amount of time. And he and Terry, his caddy, I mean, they're a great team, and they're out there constantly. But the players out here have gotten better.
Yeah.
Courses. I think when the guys come out from the PGA Tour, they're kind of like, well, you guys aren't playing it that short. The courses aren't that easy, as in being short 67, 6,800 yards. Let's just bomb it out there. That's not the case out here. There's some golf courses, and our majors this year, you'll be able to see that, no question.
Here's the thing about him is that when he got to 60, I thought, like it does with everybody who's been great out there, that it would dry up, because I was looking, and the total wins by the other four guys in the top 5 all times on wins combined, they had 6 wins after 60. He now has 3 times that almost. That alone, Jerry, look, to try to explain that to people in terms of the level of accomplishment for the elongated period of time is mind-numbing.
They have no idea the sheer excellence that this guy has brought in his entire career. He got stigmatized probably a little bit for the yips, but the way that he got through that and worked through that, and how great of a putter he is now, he will go down, I believe, as one of the greatest competitive golfers ever to play. I'd put him seriously, squarely in the top 5, definitely in the top 10. And who knows who I'm forgetting in the past and all that type of stuff. But I'm talking about consistent, competitive, at the top golf, and at the top of where he's at. It is. Trust me, we were all expecting it to drop off at 60 as well. So we knew the numbers that he was at, and he was only getting better, it seemed like. And, he wills the ball where he wants it to go. And he's an extremely conservative player. But then when he gets in that situation where he has to go a little more aggressive, where he has to go at the pin, he doesn't miss a beat. I think he's so consistent at picking his perfect spot away from the pin and hitting that spot consistently and playing the percentages that when he goes at the pin, he knows he can go right at the pin because he's hit his spot away from the pin perfectly all the way up. And, most of us kind of go at the pins and then we're either to the right or to the left, hopefully the right distance. And he is just methodically picking a golf course apart.
No doubt. I got to ask you, a guy who's going to turn 50 at the end of the year, you, like so many, were sucked into that vortex in your prime. Here comes this guy, and he's the 100-year flood, and he raises all the boats in the game. And I'm obviously talking about Tiger. Does your intuition tell you that he wants to be out there a little bit with you guys starting next year?
I think number one, Tiger really wants to win more USGA championships. Maybe some more PGA of America, maybe Players. I think our majors are pretty enticing.
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, if he could put that Conquistador helmet on in Tucson and win
Yes.
the Cologuard Classic, I think that would be a capper to his career that it would be mind-blowing.
Speaking of which, look, this is personal to you, but the truth is that the Cologuard and what they do is personal to tons of people. They've been a partner of yours. I know how proud you have been to represent them. This event, every event has its own flavor. Why is this event so important? Because I know it is.
That's when it gets hard to talk about, but we have to talk about it. This is the second leading cancer killer among men and women in the United States. Think about how often you hear about colon cancer compared to even a breast cancer. This is the second leading killer among men and women, and people don't talk about it. That's what this tournament has opened up. This tournament has opened up the discussion. I have seen far too many people. John McLeod, when we first got here, he was a great ambassador. He had stage 4. He's doing cartwheels all over the place, on the first tee, everywhere. And, we lose him not 2 years later. Then my great friend, Rob Andringa, at 48 is diagnosed. And that was when the age to get tested was 50. And that's just an arbitrary age that's put on it, with the companies and the FDA and all that kind of business. And we've got to bring that down because the instance of colon cancer among the young people, and we're talking even 25 to 35, is growing at an alarming rate. And it's starting to get into the media. It's starting to get recognized. But, I lost Rob not long, almost a year after he got diagnosed. And when you start looking at the numbers of stage 4 survivors, stage 4, if you catch it late, about 1 out of 10 survive. Yet if you catch this disease early, 9 out of 10 can survive. It's a very curable, it's a very catchable disease, but don't wait for symptoms. By the time you receive symptoms, it could be too late. So this is something that I would say for yourself, the second you reach 45, it's a standard of care. This is something that should be done by every single American, and hopefully we take it worldwide. It's an incredibly efficient product. People don't realize that as well. It butts heads right up against colonoscopy when you talk about results. So it is something special. Exact Science is something special. The commitment, just the passion there is in everybody's voices that are talking about this and other cancers as well. They're making great strides in their blood test, their CancerGuard EX. But really, the blood tests have no chance of working against Cologuard, and especially Cologuard Plus that's coming out this year. That is the gold standard, and if you want to really know, that is what you do. And I've lost too many people, and listening, I don't want to lose any of you. So please get screened, talk to your doctor. If there's family history, get a colonoscopy. But everybody else, do it for yourself, do it for your family. This is really important to me. So please do it.
Well, listen, those impassioned voices include your own. Thank you for sharing the way that you have. It's great to see your face, hear your voice, have a good conversation. Have a great week at a special event. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Jerry Kelly, 12-time winner on PGA Tour Champions. We continue with you on this Wednesday on 5 Clubs right after this. Welcome back into 5 Clubs on this Wednesday. Great to have you with us, not only on Golf Channel, but you can listen on the PGA Tour Radio Network on Sirius XM. This segment being brought to you by Peter Millar. Iconic style, modern function, anything you need wherever you're going, Peter Millar has the answers for you at petermillar.com. Joining me now, she's been a big part of the 5 Clubs family from the beginning. And when it was the beginning, she was beginning her college career. The college career now over. She is now a professional broadcaster, and we are lucky to have her, and in particular covering college golf for us. I'm speaking, of course, of Emma Carpenter. She joins me now. She was taken in TGL on Tuesday night. Good morning. How are you?
Gary, good morning. I am wonderful. How are you? Gosh, it's good to be with you here now.
I know the journey continues, and your professional journey, I've got to ask you, because a lot of people have followed your journey from college golf. Now you're a broadcaster, you're contributing on PGA Tour Live. Obviously, you're going to be part of what we're doing on Golf Channel going forward. Right now, talking college golf with you. What's the biggest lesson that college golf taught you as a student athlete and as somebody who was doing tons of broadcasting as well? You were calling games, you were singing the national anthem at sporting events. What was the greatest lesson that you got from being a college athlete?
That's a really good question, Gary. And truthfully, there are so many lessons. Anybody who plays the game of golf knows that, boy, it is humbling. It is an amazing game. It's why I love it so much. But I would say the biggest lesson that I learned about myself is the ups and downs and how to handle those and how to persevere. I saw a quote the other day, Gary, that said, if you knew that you had to fail 20 times to succeed, how quickly would you try to fail? And I think that rings so true in golf, in my broadcasting career, and for any career in general, or any sport for that matter, that truthfully, if you knew that all it took was to just keep trying and keep at it over and over and over again, knowing that that came with failure, but it would eventually come with success, I think is what really keeps me going every single day and what makes me enjoy the process and enjoy the journey. Because at the end of the day, you really just got to keep on believing in yourself.
It's a great lesson for everybody, whatever level they might be at as it pertains to the game. This time of the year, it's now March. For you and your experiences at the University of Minnesota, you guys were trying to build, and you're doing it in a very cold climate, and some of the better teams are. Some are not. Some are out in the Southwest. Some are in the deep South. What is so important about right now for the men's and women's teams trying to build toward the end of the year?
There's some strategy involved with scheduling in college golf around this time. We tried it a number of different ways where do we want to pack in all of our tournaments at the back half of the year? Do we want to make sure we get off to a really strong start in this February, end of January, February, March months right before you get into conference and you get into postseason? It's definitely hard with all the teams that are in some northern climates, because when I was at the University of Minnesota, we didn't get to go outside and play golf during this time of the year. Actually, they were out playing golf just the other day. My college team was, which is pretty cool. Some good weather in Minnesota right now. But I think that there's so much importance when it comes to how you're putting together your schedule and the work that you're doing every single day to prepare. But diving into those stats, especially, you can't ignore any bad round of golf or what might have happened in a tournament, because what happens at the beginning of the year is always going to set a tone for what happens through the end of the year, whether you're improving greatly, whether you want to just kind of keep on riding the wave that you're on. But there, you need to take into account what's happened and what you need to continue to work on and build on.
All right, let's talk about some of these teams, because you're going to share with us, and again, all the way through the NCAA championships, your perspective on who's playing well, teams to look out for. Let's start on the men's side. Right now, as we put up this list, your top 3 teams. We'll get to the other things with respect to a wild card and your player of the year. But let's start first. Number 3, Ole Miss, and then we'll go in ascending order, 3, 2, 1. Let's start with Ole Miss. Why do you like them so much?
Men's college golf has some unbelievable teams, as each and every year it seems to be. Ole Miss, I've got them in here because right now they're sitting up top on the scoreboard clipped rankings in points, and there is the biggest disparity between first and second than there is between any other 2 teams, and that's on both the women's and the men's side. Of the 5 events that they've played, they've only lost to 3 teams, which is unbelievable to be really dominating that often. Florida, currently ranked 11. They've got Ian Gilligan and Jack Turner, both inside the top 30 on the World Amateur Golf rankings and on scoreboard. Ian Gilligan is 10th on scoreboard, 5th on Wagger. He was at Long Beach State, transferred to the Gators. This is his 2nd year. He's already won 3 times as a Gator, was SEC Golfer of the Week 4 times within the last year. Won the Western Am. I mean, just some really, really solid golf. And then Arizona State up top. They got 2 really, really good players up inside that top 10, including Preston Summerhays, who's really famous golf family. They're just some really good players. All
right, let me ask you about Illinois, because you list them as your wild card team. Look, Mike Small has been doing it a long time. And you look at the success of guys who've gone on to the PGA Tour, but why do you have Illinois in a position of kind of being your wild card team?
Yeah, Illinois is always a team that I followed really closely, given that I'm from Illinois. I got a lot of respect for these teams in some northern climates who play really well year after year after year. They won 13 of the last 15 Big Ten championships. Mike Small, he has been a legendary coach. And I think that when you got a legendary coaching, you're going to get legendary players. You've got players who continue to play well on tour as pros. And I think that they're a team that you always got to look out for.
All right, your player of the year, Emma, is Luke Clinton. And people are going, of course. I mean, look at him. He's got a PGA Tour card in his pocket. Is there anybody close to him, or is he definitively and emphatically the best player on the men's side?
I think that what really separates Luke Clinton is his success both on tour and in college golf. I mean, gosh, just if you look at the last couple of weeks alone, he played at the WM Phoenix Open where he missed the cut by 1. Then he went back to play in a college event where he won at Watersound by 3. And then the next week went to the Cognizant, made the cut, finished T18, and got his PGA Tour card. A lot of these college players have gotten a couple of starts on tour, but Luke Clinton really stands out in how well he's able to play in professional events. I think that that's just what goes to show about the way that he performs under pressure. He finished solo 5th at the Wyndham Championship last year, which made him one of 2 guys to only have 3 top 10s as an amateur in the same season. You know who that other guy was, Gary? It was Jack Nicklaus. So
nice company to be keeping. I think the point you made, though, Emma, is important, that, look, it'd be natural, not only the disappointment of being at the WM Phoenix Open, because he had it on the doorstep if he made the cut there, that he would have his tour card. He goes back, plays a college event, is focused and wins, and then turns right around and does what he did at the Cognizant Classic. All right, let's get to the women's side. As we put up your top 3 teams, let's start right there. Start at number 3 in ascending order with the University of Arkansas.
This season of women's golf is absolutely insane, Gary. For Arkansas, the depth they have is just unbelievable. They won at the Puerto Rico Classic just a couple of weeks ago. I played in that event last year. They won by 13 shots. They had 4 players finish in the top 10. That is the definition of having depth, because what I love about golf is how much a single player can have an impact on a team. I like to compare it to basketball a lot, because when there's only 5 players on the court, when there's only 5 players in each event, one superstar player makes a huge difference. But when you have 4 players that can go out and win an event on any given day, that's what wins you national championships. They're also playing really well this week at the Darius Rucker, which is a huge women's college golf event. Oregon, they are off to a super hot start this season. They came in second at their first event of the spring that had 14 teams in the top 50, and then backed it right up with a win. Stanford's currently the top-ranked team on College Golf Scoreboard, but they're playing really well against Stanford right now at the Meadow Club. I also played in this event back my freshman year. And they just got a super stacked team. 2 players inside the top 15 on the Scoreboard Clipped rankings. And at number 1, I've got South Carolina. They just added a player to their roster, the 18-year-old Galitsky, to what was already their insanely strong team. She just won the Moon Golf Invitational just a couple of weeks ago, which was only her second college golf event. And they already had an insanely strong, seasoned team. Hannah, Darling, Louise, they're both in the top 20, and now they're adding this player as well. I watched them in person win the Annika Intercollegiate this fall by 27 strokes. So they were already just playing phenomenally and so dominant as well. And the Annika Intercollegiate is one of the best events in college golf. So for them to be performing that well and then add this player to their roster is just, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
All right, let's get to your wild card on the women's side and also your player of the year. And people are going to see that name and go, yeah, she won a big event, didn't she? Oh, she did, just about a year ago. So let's start with the wild card team.
Absolutely. So, the wild card team is what leads me into my player of the year as well. This wild card team, I could have easily thrown them in my top 3 just
Sure.
because, and it's hard not to give a Big Ten team for my wild card, Gary, because the Big Ten's absolutely stacked this year. But Florida State, they won their last 3 events. They've got 2 players in the top 10 in the college rankings. This team totally could have gone up there in the top 3, but I think just the start that they're off to this spring is kind of making everybody say, like, wow, just how good can they really be? It's unbelievable. Moving into my player of the year, Gary, Lottie Wood, she is an absolute stud. She's a junior from England, ACC Golfer of the Month. They just announced that she was a few days ago. She's number 8 on the Scoreboard Clipped rankings, which when I reference that is your college golf specific rankings. It's based on a point system. And she's also number 1 in the World Amateur Golf rankings. So I have Luke Clinton, who's also not number 1 in the college rankings, but he is on Wagger, your World Amateur Golf rankings, and then Lottie Wood as well. Her short game and putting is just unbelievable. Of the 6 events that she's played so far, she's individually placed 3rd or better. And these are all in insanely strong fields as well. I think that when you are a golfer consistently putting yourself in contention to win week after week after week, when we know how much this game has ups and downs, when players aren't really seeming to have a whole lot of downs, I think that just shows how dominant they are.
No question. Listen, you're going to be providing all this information and, again, giving people context of what these reference points are as it relates to ranking systems, which a lot of people are unfamiliar with, and that's obviously why Emma on Campus is so important to 5 Clubs here. Thank you. Have a great day. I know now, and for people who are wondering, she's still in Minnesota, right? Oh, no, she's West Coast now. She's a West Coast girl. We will talk to you very soon, because all of these events are building all the momentum, like you said, from here into conference, then obviously regionals, and then the national championship. And we have you along the way to keep everybody educated on what is going on. Thank you so much.
Gary, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I can't wait to come back with some more updates.
Absolutely. That is Emma Carpenter, part of the 5 Clubs family. We continue with you on this Wednesday. Still ahead, our favorite segment, Dogs of the Week. We're back right after this. Best time of the week, back here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can also listen on the PGA Tour Radio Network on the Sirius XM. It is time for Dogs of the Week. This segment brought to you by Pinehurst. There's always a good reason to make an appointment to go to Pinehurst, and they have so much going on, being over there the last 2 weekends, with Pinehurst number 10 being voted the best new public golf course in America in 2024. The clubhouse and the restaurant are going to be ready early summer and then late summer, and then of course the cottages on number 8. They have a new great restaurant that is going to open soon enough in the main clubhouse at the resort as well. When you walk in the main door and you're walking down the hall, they've got all those historical figures, and they've got all the trophies of all the championships. So before you get to the Deuce, there's going to be a new restaurant on the left that's going to be more like a nighttime experience. Always something new at Pinehurst. We always have new dogs for you. So let's get to the Dogs of the Week. Send them in at dogs@5clubsgolf.com. That is Alex Russell from Golf Channel. Those are her dogs, Baxter and Barrett. They live near Bay Hill, but are members of the Orange Tree Golf Club right up the road. She's part of the player relations group. She's one of the best people in the industry. That is Forrest and Finn from the Old Town Club in Winston-Salem. Forrest is a 6-year-old black lab, is a member greeter and a creek manager. Finn is a 1-year-old border collie, irrigation and native area enthusiast. The dad is Nate Tompkins, who's the golf course superintendent. That is Caddy. Caddy is a petite basset. The owner is Tony Tronkale from the reserve at Spanos Park in Stockton, California. And finally, that is Winnie. Rob Collins, one of the great golf course designers, that is at Crossroads at Palmetto Bluff. How good is that photo and how beautiful is that dog at one of the great short new golf courses in America? What a treat. I played there last year. Thank you for sending in the Dogs of the Week. And again, send it to their own email. The dogs have their own email, and they should. dogs@5clubsgolf.com. All right, we have some other things to get to, including the fact that, look, it's a Signature Series event, and the club is going to be open on a Wednesday morning. No, a lot of these guys were not in the field last week at the Cognizant Classic, but I expect some volatility this week as we take a look at the Club 5 Power Rankings. And all these guys, with the exception of number 1, have won a golf tournament. We're going to start with Thomas Dietrich, who obviously won that WM Phoenix Open emphatically. He also has a 5th place finish and a 15th, so he stays in the club. Again, there's kind of a power rankings, more of a condensed kind of a trend line, who is hot right now. Sepp Straka, he too has a win. Plus, last week, finished in the top 15. Has multiple top 15s in addition to winning a golf tournament already this year. So there you see a trend with a couple of Europeans in the club. Let's continue that trend because there's more of them. At number 3, as we reveal Rory McIlroy, he hadn't played much. Obviously, he's going to play this week. He's won at Bay Hill. He's going to play next week. He's won the Players. Of course, he won at Pebble Beach. He was 4th in Dubai. Didn't have a great final round at the Genesis at Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines finished tied for 17th, but nonetheless, firmly entrenched there at number 3. Number 2, he won the Genesis at Torrey Pines. He was also the 36-hole leader at the Farmers Insurance Open before he got sick as a dog. That, of course, is Ludwig Oberg. And he is number 2. I think there's a reasonable chance that he could win any week, but in particular this week, and I like him a lot next week at the Players, where in his first start last year he finished 8th. Now, this guy's gotten grace. He's earned it because he's the best player in the world, and it's not like he's playing poorly. And maybe he gets supplanted this week. That, of course, is Scotty Scheffler. He's back to defend at Bay Hill. He'll defend, of course, next week, looking for a three-peat at the Players. Here's the thing about Scheffler. He hadn't played that much. His season started later because of the injury to his hand on Christmas. He did play very well, especially that final round. And here's the thing about that final round at the Genesis. He played with Rory, and he outclassed him that day. And that matters. So those are the Club 5 entries. And again, we'll see what it looks like next week going into the Players. Finally, let's take a look at the standings for all of us here. And we are very consistent. We don't like to pick winners. Haven't picked a winner, none of us, this season. Brendan DeYoung, he's in the basement, followed by Taylor Zarzer, Johnson Wagner, Gil Hance, Jay Billis, Emma Carpenter. It's not like I've done anything extraordinary. 3 of us had Russell Henley last week. Nice little bump in terms of the overall money, but still, a putrid start to the year for all of us. So with that, we reveal our picks this week, Signature Series, another idiot trifecta in play. It's not idiotic to pick Scotty Scheffler any week, but Gil Hanse, Johnson Wagner, Brendan and Young play the number one player in the world. I'm confounded by Jay Billis. That's not new, I generally am. But he picks Xander Schauffele, who hadn't played, and he's showing up on a very, very demanding golf course. Boy, that's a lot of confidence in him. Rory from Emma Carpenter. Taylor Zarzo goes back to the well on Russell Henley. I'm going to play Justin Thomas, who finished 12th last year. He's 7th strokes gained total. Plus, he's got 3 top 10s already this season. Now, one guy who's not in the field, I appreciate the guys from Fried Egg sending me this hat. The Just a Guy is not in the field. Thank you to Brendan and Andy Johnson for the hat. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you Monday for Players Week.